What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Soul TCG. We're out here with that fire, that heat, that sauce, and that interaction guy. Guys, I've been telling y'all, I've been cooking up something, and listen, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of work, guys. As a guy that's a full-time job and is a family man and is a bodybuilder getting ready for a show, all right, this was a lot of work. So I would highly appreciate it, yo, if you guys subscribe, like, comment, share this video, man. Give me some support on it. I appreciate all of you that give me the love. It's a lot of work. I hope you guys enjoy this, so please give me all your feedback. If there's missed interactions or other interactions that you think are cool, there's definitely not missed interactions because I'm going to cover everything, but if there's other interactions that you think might be important, go ahead and share them in the comments, guys. We're all here to grow and learn together. But before we dive into this video, did y'all get your steps in? Yo, listen guys, yo, we're not just out here betting ourselves mentally, boys. We're betting ourselves physically. So get out there, get your steps in, all right? Stay active, all right? Because we want to make sure you're getting that blood flow going. You get that circulation through there. It's going to help you improve with injuries. It's going to help sustain you. It's going to get your cardiovascular system rocking and rolling. It's going to help improve your metabolism, which in turn is going to help you improve your immune system, guys. Get out there, stay active, all right? And if you're my soulies, once you finish that gym, bro, get your ass on that treadmill. Get on that Stairmaster, all right? Put this video on, you know, once you're done with the video, you're done with your cardio. It's that easy. It's that easy, boys, to stay active, all right? You guys get indulged with the video. You guys are watching the video, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try, I can't wait to try this. When you get, next thing you know, it's over and you're done with your cardio. It's easy, boys, all right? So get out there and stay active, get that fresh air, man. You know, you don't have to be going to the gym, man, but get that fresh air, man. Go walk around your block, you know, just breathe in that fresh air, enjoy the trees, enjoy Mother Nature, watch the video. By the time you finish the video, head back home. And you got your steps in, you already better yourself, you probably lost some weight, you know? So make sure you guys are staying active, all right? Now, without further ado, my hard work, let's go ahead and jump on into this interaction guide. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and jump on into this interaction guide. I'm very excited to bring this guide to you guys. And naturally, if you look at the interaction guide, I have White Forest and Asmina cards and Snake Eyes cards on here. But unfortunately, we're not doing this. I did run out of time on this, and it's very lengthy. And I just wanted to cover the main meta threats. If you guys enjoy this guide, I will do a rogue tier / forgotten meta tier interaction guide for you guys, but for right now I figured we'd focus on the main meta threats. So first up, we're going to cover Mitsurugi. Now with Mitsurugi, there's quite a few things. We got hand traps, all right? So what are the best hand traps? Now naturally you guys see that we have a row of effective hand traps and then not effective hand traps. This not effective doesn't mean that it's bad per se, but it just means it's not as good as the effective hand traps, okay? So keep that in mind. None of these are actually completely terrible. Some might be, but overall it's not. We'll cover each one. So naturally, Dominus Impulse is a very great card to have inside this matchup. It's a god card in a lot of our matchups. Mags, being able to snipe the Marakumo is just absolutely huge. Ash is always just fantastic. Crows on the ritual spell is fantastic. Droll obviously just completely shuts down the deck. Then you got Bell, really great card. All their stuff is in the grave and adding back. So, and then we got Azuna, everything's in grave, so it turns our Azunas live. And then Fua is probably the best option against this deck. It's not really the best, but it's more effective than anything. Not as effective as Shifter. A lot of Mitsurugi players can play Shifter. Purge isn't really that good. Same with targeted negation. Targeted negation against this deck isn't really that good. Guys, this isn't the interaction point. I'm just going over the hand traps for you, okay? Obviously, Meows is okay, but it's not that good. Same thing with Cerulean. He can easily play around pretty much all the Charmies. Imperm, as much as Imperm is a god card, it's just really not that effective when you have prayers that can escape the targeting. And then Retaliating Sea, same thing. It's just not that good against this version of the deck because they can play with their cards getting removed. And then Spiral obviously isn't that good because they can just resummon everything. Now going into the choke points, guys. So here we have the choke points. So first off, we got Ash and Impulse onto Mitsurugi Ritual. I feel like this is a very important interaction that you guys should know. Ash is very strong here, but the problem is we're going to be seeing a lot of pure Mitsurugi out there. So necessarily stopping the ritual with Ash isn't going to be the best or most ideal, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to ritual summon from hand first, so you can't really Ash this. So I would honestly personally hold the Ash for our next interaction. So Ash onto the Mirakumo or the Mitsurugi Prayers, same thing with Impulse on the Mirakumo or Mitsurugi Prayers is phenomenal. All right, that's why we have this in red. So as we go through this, the red arrows are more of a dominant choke point for you guys, and that I think you should pay attention to more often than not. This is a very solid stop, and this is where I would most likely hold my interaction if I just had an Ash, you know, or I just had an Impulse. I'm gonna stop the Mirakumo or I'm gonna stop the Prayers. It just depends on the situation, what they have, what they started with. You guys kind of have to play it by ear, but this is a very important stop. We don't want them to have Mirakumo on board. We don't want them to resolve Prayers. So stopping the Mirakumo, like especially after it got tributed to search a card, because typically they're gonna search another copy of Prayers or a copy of Purification once they tribute the Mirakumo. So stopping that special summon and they don't get the ad, obviously, that's just going to be absolutely huge. Next up, obviously Ash onto the Saji. This is okay. I guess it depends on the build that you're playing against. Like if it's a splash deck, if it's running a secondary engine, depending on the engine, ashing the Saji isn't necessarily bad because you're going to cut them off access to the engine. If you guys notice Habakiri isn't on here, I'm showing you guys key choke points. Like you should always let Habakiri resolve, honestly, because it's okay if it resolves as long as you have an answer for what they're doing. So naturally Habakiri is going to go into this and then tribute this, and then they're going to search for the ritual spell. So ashing on this is better. I'd rather them waste the Habakiri effect, because then it's once per duel, so once they get it out of the way, they're done with it. So you just stop whatever they summon out. And then we'll go ahead and go into the next lineup here, which will be the Mag and DD Crow option. So naturally DD Crow onto the Mitsurugi Ritual when they try to add it back with the Kusanagi. And then we got Mag DD Crow onto the Mirakumo. This is very important. Naturally, Mirakumo is the big boss monster. This is ideally what we want to stop 9 times out of 10. So this is a very solid hit. And that's it for the targets. There obviously is plenty of targets, guys, for this deck, but you guys want to make sure we're doing choke. We're talking about choke points, right? And it's not necessarily going to completely shut off your opponent, but it's going to force them to have a mid board and a lot easier board for you to deal with. Next up, Ghost Spell. Same thing, guys. Ghost Spell onto the Prayers, onto the Mirakumo is just absolutely huge. Just hit those, get it out of the way. Just, you don't want these cards to resolve. These guys right here are just the most annoying cards to deal with, and if you take care of these cards, then Mitsu really isn't that bad to deal with in the end. You know, not many people are running Futsu, but some of the pure builds will. But I mean, typically we're not just going to have just one hand trap, but obviously our main goal is to make sure that they don't get to Mirakumo, because that is a lot more annoying to deal with. Next up, Droll, obviously here in the corner. That's GG's, chat, you know, so that's GG's, guys. Droll into a Mitsurugi build is just, that hurts. That's going to hurt their soul, hurt their pride, all of that and then some. So Droll is a very phenomenal card in this matchup, and definitely something you want to make sure that you're siding in when you're going up against a Mitsurugi build. Next up, we got cool techs for you guys. So our first cool tech is Azuna, guys. So Azuna naturally is going to be turned on after they use all their effects. A lot of it's activating inside the grave, so they're having some graveyard effects going off. Or they have the in-hand effect of Habakiri, which they're most likely going to start off with, and that puts our Azuna live. Now, the key thing here is, when do you use the Azuna, right? You use it after Prayers, boys. You use it after Prayers, all right? Because if you use the Azuna, what we're essentially trying to do is just steal their Mirakumo, or steal one of the bodies off their board, right? So after they use Prayers, they already pretty much tributed the Mirakumo. So once the Mirakumo has already been tributed and out of the way, we can just go ahead and go into Azuna and then make our Nash Knight, and then Nash Knight attach the Mirakumo, okay? That right there, that alone is just gonna completely kill their deck, because now the copy of their prayers, the copy of their purification is really not gonna do much if we just stole their boss monster, right? And they just cycled through the ritual spells. So waiting until after they use the prayers to use your Azuna. Now, naturally, it could be dependent. There could be situations where maybe it would be smarter to use it, but always remember that prayers is a threat, and it's going to take away our target, all right? So it's an easy way for them to get out of targeting Nash Knight targets. Well, Nash Knight doesn't target, I'm sorry, but it's just an easy way for them to get a monster off the board, and we want to be able to steal the high impact monster, right? So say if you only have one monster on board and you haven't used prayers yet, and you use Zuna, go Nash Knight, and then you go Nash Knight effect, well, you can just chain prayers and then tribute the monster. So then you're kind of cooked right there, right? So you don't get the extra attacks, you don't remove the body, you still get advantage. So make sure you're waiting until after they use prayers, even if you don't know if they have it or not. Wait for the prayers, guys. Wait for the prayers to hit your Azunas. Go into the Nash Knight. I would wait for them to finish comboing, then I'd go into Azuna, and depending on their end board, 9 times out of 10, I'm taking the Mirakumo, just because I don't want it in rotation. Next up is Spellcaller Monster Reborn, the Snipe Master 9000. Guys, this card is highly slept on, and you're going to see this inside the cool text slide on each and every single one of our meta tier list, or our meta guide here that we're going to be going over. This card is highly underrated, highly slept on. Say for instance you're playing a mirror match, right, and you go ahead and you use Mirakumo's effect and you go ahead and snipe that out of the grave, right? Okay, well, not only did you just get yourself a reptile body for yourself to use as tribute fodder, but you also got rid of their Mirakumo. Okay, so this is just like Spellcaller Monster Reborn is just cracked, right? So I mean, being able to snipe this, it can also help you with extension. Naturally, if you did tribute it, if you were playing the mirror match and did tribute it, you trigger the Mirakumo's effect. But either way, that's irrelevant. We don't really give a shit about that, because we're going to have our own effects to go off, right? So we can take care of that, or you can just simply just steal their Mirakumo and just hold on to it and then combo without it, right? So Spellcaller Monster Reborn is actually pretty fire. It's better than DD Crow because it generates you a body. So I think this card is a very solid tech option that we should be looking into this format, and you'll see as we continue to go through the rest of the decks. Next up is Super Poly. Well, why? Because it's Super Poly, right? So Super Body just clears board and there's no response, right? And with Pure Mitsu just being all dark and reptile, it's just an easy Super Poly target. It'll cook them, take off 2 interactions, right? Next up is Black Goat, guys. Bye bye boss monster. So I hope you guys enjoyed the little funny slogans I put in there for this to try to make it a little more entertaining for you. But anyways, Black Goat is just absolutely phenomenal. I don't think you can get a better card this format. I think this is probably one of the most slept on techs right now, because you call Mirakumo, you call whatever threat, and it's just gone. You can't summon it, you know? So if you're setting Black Goat, this is just absolutely cracked. Or maybe you pitch Black Goat going second and you pitch Black Goat, you can just activate Black Goat in the graveyard, call Mirakumo, and just GG's, all right? What are you gonna do? You're gonna summon some monsters, that's cool, all right? Your board wipe's gone, your discard negation is gone now, so Black Goat is very solid into this matchup. Next up, guys, we are gonna cover Yummy. So for Yummy, here are what hand traps, right? So we got, again, the effective and not effective. Obviously, there is a lot more effective hand traps. I'm gonna briefly cover these before we get into the interaction guide. So obviously we have Ash. Ash is very solid into this matchup for the Cups Yummy way. We have Contact C. Contact C is very niche right now just because with Yummy having so much extension and trying different things, they probably have plenty of room in their side deck to be able to play around it, but it can be annoying if you catch them off in the wrong area, right? So Contact C is still effective, especially for people that aren't prepared for it. Mag, obviously, any Bastiles in this matchup are pretty good. You're generating bodies, you're disrupting their board, you know, just sniping out one of their bodies is just absolutely huge. Impulse is a godsend into this matchup as well. It's just impulse is impulse, right? I mean, being able to impulse, you know, one of their Cupsy synchros or one of their Yummy synchros, and preventing that, impulsing a snatchy. I mean, impulse is just a really good godsend, and just timing when you impulse is huge. Next up, Shifter. Shifter is just phenomenal, guys. In this matchup, I mean, he can't really play. He can't really play the game, and I find that absolutely hilarious. Ogre. Ogre is really good in this matchup. Believe it or not, not only can you hit the field spell, I think hitting the field spell is wrong, but if you have Ogre, I mean, there's just so many lines. I'll get into it with the interaction guide and why it's good, but Ogre is very solid in this matchup. Next up, we have Ghost Bell. Ghost Bell obviously is a godsend in this matchup. Everything revolves with taking monsters out of the grave, and without that mechanic, you can't really play the game. So Ghost Bell is really good. Nib is highly slept on in this matchup, right? A lot of people say they can play around Nib, but literally, if you have Nib plus any other hand trap, you're cooking them. Like, you know, I mean, especially if you go Obedience School, like in their Peace Lock. But obviously, with Obedience School down to 1, Nib is a little bit less effective. But if you pair Nib with any other hand trap, they're cooked. And Meows. I think Meows is actually really good into this matchup, especially you could hold a Meows and just use it on your turn when they're trying to summon it back. Because if you think about it, for them to keep comboing on your turn and interrupting you, they're summoning like 3 to 4 times out of the graveyard. So you're getting 3 to 4 draws on your turn while you continue to combo and push. Fua, obviously Fua is just a godsend in this matchup. Won plenty of games against Yummy because of Fua. But I think Meows is one of those techs that people are sleeping on right now. This is very solid in this matchup, and depending on how popular Yummy is, this might be a side-worthy card. Least effective, not as effective. Droll obviously isn't that good. Naturally, if you start off with Cupsy Yummy and you add the spell, Droll's okay because then it turns off their Cupsy Yummy way, which is good because it gives them a lot less follow-up. So if you paired that with literally any other hand trap, you can kind of pretty much end them pretty quickly. I mean, it's pretty disgusting what you can do. Perulia is not that good. You can play around Perulia. Yes, they can play into it. More inexperienced players can, but you need to prepare to play good players, and good players are going to be able to play around Perulia in this build. So Perulia is not as effective inside Yummy. Naturally, you can get a draw, but it's not really worth it if you're only going to get a draw out of it. Spiral's okay, but it's still not that good just because, you know, you're targeting and bouncing, and they respond to targeting very well in this matchup. So anything that targets isn't really good in this matchup. So that includes Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler really isn't that good inside this matchup either. Yes, you could hit the Snatchy when they try to do the field spell, but it's kind of just a waste of a hand trap. There's a lot better options, as you can see. Plenty of better options. Same thing with Purge. Purge is okay, it's not that good. You know, we want a little bit more oomph when we're going through this. Purge with Trap Engrave, now that's pretty badass, alright? But Purge by itself, not that good. Same thing with Imperm. Naturally, they can play around targeting. I mean, yeah, you can hit the Snatchy, but it's just not that effective. And then Azuna's pretty much a dead card in this matchup. Now with the new Marshmallow, and if they have another deck, if they're combining the Yummy with another deck, yes, then Azuna can be pretty effective. But if it's just pure Yummy, I'm basing this off of pure Yummy, Azuna's not really that good. So into the interaction guide and choke points here. So choke points, first up, we got Ash onto the Cupsy Yummy way. I would just hold this. Once they summon out Cupsy Yummy way, just go ahead and Ash that because it's just going to give them too many resources, right? So you Ash that, you get that out of the way, and then now they're just playing with their Snatchy and whatever extender they have inside their hand. So ashing on this is just very solid. Next up is Bell. Same thing, guys. We're gonna Bell the synchros. It's not just necessarily Cupsy Yummy way, but you're gonna Bell whatever synchro. The moment they tag out their synchro and try to summon back from the grave, you're Belling that all day. And same thing goes when it's on your turn, even holding bells for your turn. You know, if you only have a bell, you know, sometimes they might be able to play through it if you bell them on their turn. So if you feel more comfortable, you can absolutely hold a bell for your turn. When they tag it out, and you go ahead and hit them with bell and continue comboing and eliminate the threat. That's gonna stop a lot of shenanigans from going on. Next up, this is where I think this is highly slept on. Ogre onto the Snatchy. I think this is a very solid move. Yes, they can place a field spell, but they can't use the field spell without the Snatchy, so you're putting on
on better have an extender, right? So they need to have an extender to be able to play through Ogre, otherwise they're kind of just cooked. So ogering the Snatchy is pretty solid. Even Ogre on your turn when the U Snatchies affect the Synchro Summon, that is also very solid because now you're putting them in a very awkward position and they better have something they can go into without a Snatchy, right? Next up is Impulse. Impulse onto the Cupsy Yummy way. I think your biggest threat, honestly, is them tagging out and grabbing a copy of Snatchy and then grabbing, you know, another monster and getting recursion like that and getting the additional effects of their Cookie and their Lollipo and their Cupsy. So I would say the Impulse obviously for the Synchros all day. And then Impulse onto the Snatchy is also going to be pretty effective as well. I don't think it's as effective as the Ogre, but it is still pretty effective. Next up, Nib. So Nib plus any hand trap is GG's. Like I was saying when I was going over the effective and not effective hand traps, Nib plus literally Imperm, Nib plus, you know, Impulse, Nib plus Ogre, Nib plus Bell, mainly Nib plus Bell, Nib plus Impulse, Nib plus Ogre, Nib plus Ash. I mean, that's just GG's, right? So you time your interactions properly, you can really just cook the game for them right there. And then obviously Shifter is just free. I mean, just game 2, guys. You put Shifter on them, it's over. All right, so cool text, we got quite a bit here. So first up is Black Oak. No Snatchy, no Yu-Gi-Oh, all right? Literally, you set Black Oak, flip it up in the draw phase, call Snatchy. There's nothing they can do. They literally can't play the game, right? So, and it's just absolutely hilarious. They have to pass turn because all of their stuff revolves around that. There's not enough extenders for them to do anything past that. So Black Oak calling Snatchy is just absolutely a godsend in this matchup. This is why I think this card is very slept on, especially with how popular Yummy is. I mean, you Black Oak call Snatchy, I mean, it's just GG's. Lava Golem, this is the best tech against, as long as your deck doesn't include normal summons, right? So if you don't need normal summons or your deck is low on normal summons, I think Lava Golem is a very solid option into this matchup, being able to knock off their Synchro and their Snatchy right out the gate. Even if they have a Herald, like who cares? Like you knock out their Synchro and their Snatchy, they're not doing anything. So you can knock out a Synchro, knock out the Snatchy, or if you are worried about the Herald, then go ahead and hit the Herald, hit the Synchro, and that's just phenomenal right there. Next up, Spell card, Monster Reborn. This card is absolutely cracked in the mirror match, guys. Not only are you going to take away their Snatchy or take away one of their targets, but you could also literally link into your own Snatchy and get going. So not only is it going to be a disruption for your opponent, it can be a starter for you. So Spell card Monster Reborn, if you guys are on Yummy, I think you guys should severely think about maining and definitely siding, but you could even main this card because the amount of Yummy that we're going to most likely see, this card is just absolutely phenomenal inside the mirror match. I think this is probably the best tech for a mirror match right now against Yummy. If I was playing Yummy, I'd 100% have this card on my side all day, every day. Super Poly. It's Super Poly, guys. I mean, I don't need to say much, right? So Super Poly. Super Poly cooks this deck as well. It's going to at least eliminate some of the interruptions that they're going to be able to put out on you, and it's absolutely phenomenal. D-Barrier, you're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh, right? So, I mean, D-Barrier, you're calling Synchros, I mean, it's just GG's, right? So, you're not playing, I'm playing. Retaliating C, guys, Yummy with any additional engine. So right now, obviously, we're seeing Yummy with Mimighoul, we're seeing Yummy with Mitsurugi, we're seeing a lot of different variants of Yummy, and those different variants of Yummy use spell cards that special summon, i.e. Mimighoul with their Mimighoul Maker that special summons, correct? So then also you have Mitsurugi with Mitsurugi Ritual or Mitsurugi Prayers. that all special summons. So you will be able to use Retaliating Sea, and Retaliating Sea cooks yummy, right? So everything getting removed from play, same thing as Shifter, right? So without that, pretty much you're turning off their yummy engine, and you just have to deal with whatever engine they currently are running now, right? So this is just absolutely phenomenal against a deck that is running multiple engines. So any yummy deck that is splashing an engine, Retaliating Sea will be very good against them. Next up, K9. All right, we got a lot of cover here for K9. For effective, obviously Ash is very effective. DD Crow is going to be phenomenal just because a lot of the graveyard that we want to hit is going to be Earth. And naturally Bestials can't hit the Earth, so DD Crow is good. Droll is a godsend in this matchup. You're pretty much putting them on literally like 1 XYZ, maybe 2 if you have the Azuna in hand. Perulia, also very phenomenal. Everything from their hand is just being summoned from hand 9 times out of 10. So you're always getting draws with Perulia. So Perulia into this matchup is very good. Fualos obviously is very good, and you're getting typically around 3 to 4 draws against the pure variant. Needless to say, whatever other variant they're playing. So Fualos is good, but you're most likely to get more draws off of Perulia, especially against the pure build. Azuna, obviously, K9 versus K9 is huge. So Azuna into a K9 matchup is absolutely hilarious, and I'll go over when to use your Azunas in this matchup. Target negation is actually very fire in this. So Imperm is phenomenal, Impulse also phenomenal, Purge is phenomenal, and Spiral is actually absolutely hilarious into this matchup. So shout out to Fire King, Snake Eyes, and Mermail for being able to play this Godsend card. This card's very phenomenal in this matchup. Not effective Shifter. Pure K9 builds are most likely going to run a copy of Shifter because it doesn't really affect them that much. Materials are going to be sent to the graveyard anyway, so they still will keep their lanterns alive. So Shifter is pretty crazy. Effect Veiler is okay, but you don't really want to use a card that's going to activate in hand if you don't have to, unless it's going to be a solid matchup, right? So yes, Imperm's phenomenal, but it's not activating in hand. So that's the key difference between Imperm and Veiler in this matchup. Veiler is less effective, it's okay, but you're going to turn on other effects if you have it. Ghost Ogre is okay in this matchup. You can put them on some niche scenarios and, you know, put them off a body and try to make them overextend a little bit, but still they're going to get to where they're going, especially a pure build, so Ogre's not really that good. Nib. So Nib is only good if you have it paired with another hand trap, per usual. So Nib into this matchup isn't that good purely because obviously Ripper can just stop it, right? So Ripper can stop Nib. The Evan archetype stop to Nib and hand trap. So you need to have another hand trap plus Nib in order to cook them. Retaliating Sea, you don't give a shit about their cards getting removed from play, and also materials don't get removed from play, so Retaliating Sea really isn't that good in this matchup. Ghost Spell isn't really that good, but you can technically hit the Lantern, but it's still just, it's into K9, you don't really care about it. You can also hit the Lupus, right? But still, like, that's very niche. A lot of the stuff now, especially with the Noroi and the Jokul, I mean, they're going to have plenty of bodies on board, and it won't really matter if you waste one interaction on a Lupus or a Lantern, they're still going to get where they're going. Meows is okay in this matchup, but you probably only get like 1 to 2 draws, maybe one, and you can just play around it, so Meows isn't really that good in this one. Alright, on to the choke points, boys. So first up, we're going to go over Ash and Purge. So naturally, Purge is 20 times better, but you can only purge the case of K9, right? But you can Ash the Noroi. So ashing on the Noroi is going to be fine. I don't think it's bad per se, but you're still allowing them to have the effect to look at hand. Ashing a case of K9 is also fine, but it's not that effective overall. But you can do that. You mainly want to hit it with target negation, right? Because we want to turn off the effect to look at the opponent's hand. With pure builds, they're going to be able to get to the second copy of Noroi anyways. So even if you imperm it, you can still Jokul and then go into Noroi with the amount of searching that they're doing. So, but you can prevent it slightly if you just want to hold your hand and hide other hand traps that you have. And obviously, we don't want them to get to Ripper, so Imperming on the Noroi, Valor onto the Noroi is very solid. Naturally, it'd be better for Imperm. You don't really want to turn on their Azunas, but Imperm the Noroi all day, every day. That's very important. Imperm Ripper. Alright, so if you guys have literally any other hand trap, just go ahead and let their Noroi resolve. It's fine. It's not like they can hand rip you. There is a way for them to hand rip you, but it's very niche. It's a tech that I thought of for pure build with a DD Designator, where you use Noroi's effect to look at their hand, then you use DD Designator, and then you can remove and play a card from their hand. So that's pretty fire. I'm going to be going over that line inside my K9 build, but overall, I think the biggest stop, right, if not Noroi, it just depends on your hand. It's going to be Ripper. You want to stop that all day. If you Imperm Valor Ripper, obviously you can't Valor Ripper, but you can Imperm Ripper, and that's going to be your best bet. So if you put Imperm onto Ripper, that's a very solid option, and you're in a very good position. DD Crow and Ghost Bell. So DD Crow and Ghost Bell onto the Lantern and Lupus. If you Ghost Bell the Lantern effect or Lupus effect, that's very solid. Same thing if you DD Crow the Lupus or you DD Crow the Lantern target. Also very good interaction and pretty solid choke point depending on their hand. Impulse. Impulse onto Noroi is fire. I would definitely do this 10 out of 10 times. And obviously it doesn't turn on their Azunas, so Impulse onto the Noroi is phenomenal. Impulse onto the Lantern and Lupus. This is also a very good interaction, but the key thing to remember is also how you're starting and also what other hand traps you have in hand. So this is going based off of just these single hand traps, so we don't know what other hand traps. Typically, if you're playing a 40 card deck with 15 to 18 card non-engine, you should see 2 to 3 non-engine cards, right? So you should have 2 to 3 hand traps in your hand. So hopefully you can pair it with something else to get the maximum value. Nib plus Imperm, hold until end of main. So if you're playing against a pure build, typically they're most likely going to end on a Ripper with a C104 and then maybe a Valon or a Nash Knight or like a second copy. Some lists play 2 Nash Knights, so they could end on that. I think that's what most people end on. Now, if you wasted your Imperm on the Ripper, right? So naturally, we do want to Imperm Ripper, but that's only if we don't have Nib, all right? If we have Nib, you hold Imperm Nib, because if you, say for instance, you go ahead and use your Imperm on the Ripper, right? When they try to add a card, right? If you have any other extension inside their hand, and they're able to make a second copy of Ripper, I mean, you're cooked, right? So like, if they normal summon Noroi, but they still have Jokul and like Lantern in hand, like when in a Azuna, like, I mean, they're still gonna get 2 to 3, and they can still play around Nib. So that's very important to understand. Like, let them combo. If you have Nib Imperm, let them combo, guys. Just go ahead and wait, and then typically they're gonna end on a Ripper. They're gonna maybe have an IP with a C104, maybe even a Valon. There's a lot of crazy extension that they can do, especially if you interacted with them early with like a Fua or something like that, right? So they could end on 3 XYZs and an IP. But typically it's going to be 3 XYZs, right? Or maybe 2 XYZs and an IP. If they didn't have to make a second Ripper, then you just Imperm the Ripper, and then you go ahead and hit Nib, and that's just GG's right there. Droll. Hit this deck with Droll immediately, guys. I don't care if they have an Azuna in hand. Go ahead and make your singular XYZ. What are you going to do? You're going to make a Ripper. The Ripper can't add and set the spell after I Droll you, right? So like, the moment they add, man, you Droll the ever-living shit out of this deck, all right? Do not let them gain more hand advantage, because that's what this deck does. It gains hand advantage. Yes, you could still end on 1 to 2 XYZs if you Droll them. Absolutely. But who cares, right? It's better than having to deal with Force, where it's a free XYZ and a pop and all this extra bodies and extension. That's just too much, guys. So Droll them immediately. Azuna depends on the starter, okay, guys? So The biggest thing that we want to do is hold our Azuna for the moment that you're getting ready to make a Ripper. All right. The moment they are getting ready to make a Ripper, if they have 2 level 5s on board, you immediately Azuna. All right, so you Azuna, dump Lupus, Lupus effect, summon out Lupus, and then Lupus effect, XYZ, go into Nash Knight. The moment they go into Ripper, you steal their Ripper. And it's pretty good. That is a pretty solid thing, because naturally their ad is in a quick effect. They can't negate the effect of Nash Knight with Ripper. So wait for them to have 2 monsters on board. Before they go into a Ripper, you go immediately Azuna, Lupus, Lupus effect, then Lupus effect again into Nash Knight, then Nash Knight effect, and then eat the Ripper, all right? But naturally, if they have the 2 bodies on the board, you just go into Nash Knight and see what they do, right? So if they go into, if they're smart, they would go into the new K9 Jax to pop the Nash Knight, just to get rid of some advantage. But either way, you're still gonna steal their card regardless of the fact. So I mean, it's still going to put them off bodies at the end of the day. So it just puts them in a really bad position. And now you put them on, you better have an extension, otherwise you're not doing anything. So Azuna is very solid. All right, so cool text, guys. Same thing, spell card, Monster Reborn, Snipe Master 9000. This card is phenomenal, right? So if you snipe a Lupus out of their grave, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. And the fun fact is, even though spell card, Monster Reborn negates their effects, it does not negate the effect that Lupus gives to an XYZ as material. So Lupus effect as material is not negated. So you can normal summon your Jokul, right? After you sniped out their Lupus when they're trying to comment on your turn, you use your Jokul effect, you get your ad, and then you can overlay your Jokul with their Lupus, and whatever you summon can't be targeted, because that is not a negated effect, that's an effect applied to the XYZ. So that's pretty cool. And I think Spellcard Monster Reborn into a K9 matchup, especially if you're playing K9, is very solid. Black Goat, no more Ripper, guys. You call Ripper, I mean, they have a lot less extension. They can't interrupt your hand traps. They can't interrupt your Azunas. It is just a very solid call to hit the Ripper with Black Goat. Lava Golem, right? C104 and Ripper, LOL, right? So naturally, to get their inboard, you Lava Golem. If you can play Lava Golem, you play Lava Golem. It's very solid, this format. You go ahead and knock out their Ripper, you knock out the C104, and then what you deal with, like a Valon, maybe a Jax, or maybe they just had an IP on board, right? So now it's just IP and Lava Golem. So okay, go ahead and make your SP or your Gorgon, like that's cool, bro. But you don't have to deal with the C104 or Ripper. D barrier, obviously you're not playing, I'm playing, right? So you call XYZ's pretty much cooked, guys. And a real funny one, Dominus Spiral. So using Dominus Spiral, the K9 plays in Dominus Spiral very hard. Naturally, it has the same conditions as K9 to activate a card effect in hand. So you can just go ahead and desummon out the Ripper. The moment they summon out Ripper, hit them with Spiral. And send it right back to the extra deck, and now you put them on, you better have an extension, bro. So Spiral is very good in this matchup. Next up, Draco Tail, boys. So effective, we got a lot of effective. Draco Tail, in my opinion, is a very weak deck. It got some buffs with the branded version. I think the branded version is definitely the best deck. It's definitely going to see a lot of play, but it has a lot of weaknesses, as you can see. Ash, obviously. Contact C is very funny, especially when you use Contact C after they summon something with Rahu and their fusion lock, so then they just have a Contact C on board, so that's kind of funny. True Swarm, obviously very good, being able to snipe a Malulu out of the grave, because typically they're dumping Malulu if you start with Rahu, and if this Drew Storm's pretty solid, so they summon the Ethereon, target the Malulu out of hand, because obviously they want to normal summon it, right? But you go ahead and snipe that out of the grave. Shifter is obviously a godsend to this deck. It just cooks branded, it cooks Draco Tail infinitely. Ghost Spell is also very solid in this matchup. Everything is either trying to get out of grave, so it's all grave effects, so Ghost Spell is very good in this matchup. Impulse, same thing, also very good in this matchup. Being able to hit Ketu and being able to hit Rahu is very good. Spiral is also pretty effective. It just forces out more interruptions on them, and being able to put them off whatever their normal summon is very fire. Then Valor, obviously targeted negation is very good into this matchup, so Valor is very good. Ogre is absolutely hilarious in this matchup. Ogre won me pretty much almost like probably 8/10 of my Draco Tail matchups, so I'll go over that in the interaction guide. Azuna is also very fire into this matchup. Naturally, everything activates in Grave. Fua is pretty good. You'll get like 2 to 3 draws off of Fua. So Fua is awesome in this matchup. Retaliating Sea is also GG's chat. So very good in this matchup. Not effective. Droll, obviously, you said everything. So Droll's really not that good. Purge, same thing. Purge isn't really that good. Yeah, you could technically purge like Ketu, but like it's kind of ass. Nib is absolutely horrible into this matchup, unless for some reason the overextend. I think one time I had a Draco Tail player play into Nib, but it just doesn't come up, right? Typically there's something 2 times, maybe 3 times if they go into seals, so it just doesn't come up. Meows, same thing. Meows doesn't come up. It's not good in this matchup at all. Phantasme is okay if they go to seals, but some players don't go to seals. They just end on the 2 fusions and that's it. Perulia is okay, but it's only going to give you a draw. That's it. So it's best not to even put it in. Just keep it with the Fua. All right, choke points. So first up, we got Ash. So Ash on Ketu and Rahu. We're going to spend a little time here on this. If you are going second, or if they're going second into your board, you hold Ash for Ketu. All right, you don't use, if you start Rahu when you're going second, or when they're going second, I'm sorry, you hold the Ash for the Ketu. I don't care. All right, Ketu being able to generically summon out any fusion they want is just stupid. So if they're going second, you hold your Ash for the Ketu all day, every day. If you are going first, I'm sorry, if they are going first, I'm mixing it up on you boys, this is a long video. If they are going first, boys, you're gonna Ash the Rahu, and that's if they start Rahu, right? And even if they don't start Rahu, if they start with the normal summon, you only have Ash, you're not Ashing the normal summon, right? You are Ashing Rahu all day, every day, because if these, especially if they start Rahu, because if they start Rahu, they're essentially trying to get to a normal summon 9 times out of 10, or they're trying to get to the Flamina, who knows. Typically it's a normal summon. Typically they're sending Malulu. Maybe they send a Lucius, but typically they're going to go for Malulu because that's the best normal summon in the deck, hands down, all day. But you want to ask the Rahu. We don't want them to gain the materials that they don't have in their hand already, so immediately ask that. And then if you are going second, right? If you didn't ask the Rahu, say Ash was the only card in your hand, right? You could, in theory, especially if it's a pure build, you could hold the Ash in your hand and save it for your turn to stop the trap, right? So if Horn is threatening to you, save the Ash for the Horn. If Flame is threatening to you, save the Ash for the Flame. Because if you think about it, guys, like typically they're ending on like Arthurion and like a Gulamel and like the 2 traps, and like maybe they have a 5 mana, maybe they have, you know, a Malulu on field, diffuse. That's cool, but like their monsters don't really do anything, right? They're just giant vanillas at the end of the day. Like they're not that threatening. So like you could absolutely hold Ash, and like if your biggest threat is them negating a spell, just hold Ash for the Flame. You know, hit the Flame on them, and when they try to negate your spell, and then just power through the board. It's very easy to power through a Draco Tail board, especially if you have a strong deck or like a 2-engine deck that just has a lot of push. So holding Ash for the traps is honestly a very fair decision. Next up is Ogre. So Ogre, this won me so many games. The moment they summon Lucius and he uses effect, the moment they summon Malulu and uses effect, I Ogre that shit all day, right? So like, if the normal summon Lucius, right, they're typically adding 5 mana. Well, you just got rid of a Draco Tail monster, because the stipulation for their fusions is because they need a Draco Tail monster and then a card from hand, right? So if, say the normal summon Lucius, you go ahead and Ghost Ogre, right? They add the 5 mana. Well, now they have to discard the 5 mana and use 2 more cards from their hand just to get out of fusion. So it severely deprives their resources. Same thing like Malulu. Sometimes, like, with their Malulu, they're trying to use the Malulu and then a card in their hand. Maybe they don't even have another Draco Tail name. The amount of time people use Malulu, I ogred it, and then they just couldn't fuse was absolutely hilarious. Ogre into this matchup is honestly really phenomenal. So Ogre all day, every day on the normal summon, no matter what it is. Bell. So obviously you want to hit Ethereon with a bell, but typically they're going to chain block this. So you just want to go ahead and bell whatever is at the end of the chain, whether it's whatever monsters they fuse with, just to kind of stop the recursion on their turn. Or maybe you could even hold the bell for their turn. If they have an ability to fuse on your turn with like a 5 mana or something, just hold the bell for the Arthurion. But either way, I mean, it's going to be chain blocked either way. So, I mean, typically just hit whatever is last on the chain with the bell. Bell onto the horn and flame. Same thing, like if they're trying to recur their traps, obviously they're trying to shuffle in, you can use this immediately. So belling on the traps is honestly very fire. It's the same thing with Ash. You can bell onto the traps and just cook them right there, because you have to shuffle a card back from the graveyard and then draw a card, so you can absolutely bell this card. Imperm Veiler all day on Arthurion, right? So if you go ahead and set their Ketu and the Rahu, you Imperm Veiler them, it severely hurts them. That's a lot of resources they're going to miss out on. So Imperm Veiler all day on the Arthurion. Next up, Contact Seed. Depends on the starter, right? So if they start Rahu and they summon out the Arthurion and you just go ahead and Contact Seed them on the special summon, they're kind of cooked, because now they're fusion locked. They can't link it away, and they can't use Contact Seed for a fusion. Like, they literally can't. Like, there's nothing there's nothing they can go into it, unless I'm wrong. But I mean, all their Draco Tail monsters require a Draco Tail card and then cards in their hand. Contact Seed is on the field and it's just Contact Seed and it's an insect. So it's very hard to play around. If you start Rahu and you hit them with Contact Seed, that's going to be a rough game for them. I mean, they could technically bounce the Contact Seed with Arthurion, but even then, that's pretty solid, because, like, if you think about it, you're also doing it on a chain too. So, like, if they summon out another Arthurion, if they have the extension, right? So, like, say they do the Rahu, they summon out the Arthurion, so they have their triggers on chain, so they do their chains, and then on chain link 4, because typically there's like 3 things on their chain all the time. Chain link 4, you Contact Seed them, right? And that's just that cooks them. That's going to cook them hard. You know, if they have the extension to go into a second Arthurion, they could bounce the Contact Seed and continue that way, but either way, it's going to force them into a weird form of extension and less resources in their hand. I accidentally already clicked on it, but Retaliating Sea Shifter, that's just GG's. There's not much to say here. They need their graveyard, and without their graveyard, they can't play the game. Azuna. So key thing for you guys, a lot of people shotgun Azuna, and that's why you get cooked with Draco Tail. So you need to hold your Azuna, guys. It's the same thing with going up against K9 Mirrors. You need to wait for the proper time to use your Azunas. Don't just shotgun Azuna the moment you use a monster effect. You need to wait for the Ketu. Like, if Azuna's the only card in your hand, you need to wait for the Ketu, because if you do Azuna on the first thing that they do and you're trying to snipe a monster from them, or maybe you're trying to set up a Ripper to negate something, like, and they haven't used Ketu, you're allowing them to generically free summon a fusion monster, and that's just going to absolutely end you. So don't allow that. The moment that you use Ketu, you are free to use Azuna all day, every day, and go into whatever you want. All right, cool text. So obviously, Snipe Master 9000 has made its way over here. You need cards in the grave. You want to snipe their cards out of the grave. It's essentially a better version of DD Crow because it generates you a body. So it's a better version than a Bestial, even, because you don't have a light or dark restriction. So this is essentially a better version of a Bestial into this matchup. So absolutely phenomenal card. Black Goat. What does your deck even do now, right? So you Black Goat and you call Arthurion. What are you doing, bro? Like, yeah, like, what are you doing, bro? You gonna summon a Ghoul on me? Like, maybe you have a Ketu or something, and you fusion into like a Dragoon. Okay, that's easy to deal with. Like, what are you doing? Like, your deck's doing nothing. You're not recurring any resources. It's just GG's. D-Barrier, what Black Goat said, LOL, right? So, same thing. What is your deck doing when I call fusion, right? Nah, shit. Super poly, good luck playing without playing. Alright, so naturally you have the Secretary Dragon that shuts off spellcaster and dragon effects for your opponent, and you can easily get into that with super poly. Sometimes they won't end on a board that will allow a spellcaster to be on board, but if you're playing a spellcaster, it's pretty much GG's, right? So like for my Azamina folks, right, you have Black Witch on the field, they have their dragon on the field, GG's chat. But super poly still cooks either way, because if you have the Ghoul and then you have the Arthurion, I mean, this is a very solid option. But especially if you're able to get into the Secretarian Dragon. Last but not least, Fiendsmith, guys. The bread and butter is so effective. We got Ash, we got Druid Swarm, we got Shifter, we got Bell, we have Dominus Impulse, we have Spiral, we have Veiler, we have Ogre, we have Azuna, we have Fua, we have Nib. All very effective. Obviously, there's a lot of hand traps that work very well against Fiendsmith. But naturally, Fiendsmith is has the most recursion out of any archetype. So you need more than just one, right? So that's the key thing to take away here. Not effective, obviously, Droll. Very niche situations come up where if they're playing a mixed build, which most Fiendsmith builds will be mixed with something, and they start off with Engraver, using Droll there, shutting them off, using the track for the Lurry is going to be absolutely huge, right? So they use Engraver, they got the track, and you Droll them, well, it's like, all right, what's your other engine, right? And if it's Ryzel, they're cooked. So Droll's okay depending on the matchup. It's just not effective against a more pure variant of Fiendsmith. Purge is also like against it. Yeah, you could hit the track, but it's just like, okay, it's not really that good. Perulia is okay, but typically they're not really going to be summoning from the hand, right? They're mainly summoning from the grave. So Meows will technically be better. I don't have Meows in here, but yes, Meows is good. Same thing with Phantasme. Phantasme is okay. Phantasme should have been the other side. I didn't have enough room for Yummy, but Phantasme is okay, and Yummy as well. Contact C, same thing. It's not really that good. Technically, you could use it in niche situations, like maybe to use maybe use Trax Effect Diffuse, right? Engrave, now that they have Lacrima back. But it's still just, it's good if there's it's a mixed build, right? Same thing with Retaliating C. You could technically use this on the Summon of Sequence. That'll put them in a very weird position, but it still doesn't do much, especially like a pure build of Fiendsmith. But and Retaliating C, if they're playing a mixed engine, it can be very good, because obviously Shifter against this deck is a godsend. But if they're not playing it and they're playing a pure build, it's kind of All right, so choke points, here we go. So first up, we have Ash Blossom. So ashing on the Requiem is always fine. Typically that's what you want to do, especially if you start Lacrima. Then you might notice Lacrima's not in here. It's a waste of time to do anything to Lacrima. So it doesn't really matter where you hit it. If you hit Requiem with Ash, it's valid. It's just, it's a very good hit, but I don't think it's going to be as effective against a more Fiendsmith control build, just because Lacrima in itself can, and that's why Lacrima's not on here. You need a minimum of 3 interruptions to deal with Lacrima if you normal summon Lacrima, right? So you got Lacrima's effect to dump an Engraver, and then on top of that, you link Lacrima away into Requiem, so then you have to deal with Requiem with the Ash, right? So you'd have to Imper him and then Ash it, and that's just a waste. That's a waste of hand traps, a waste of resources. So you have to really know your timings here, and it's very dependent. If you start tracked, right, and you go tracked into Lurry, and then Lurry into Requiem, this is a very solid Ash. That's when it's a red arrow Ash, right? But if he did Lacrima effect, dumped Engraver, then went into Requiem, Ash doesn't really do much, because then they're going into Engraver, you could have other extension. It's not that good, especially if you have another engine. And that's another reason why Lacrima isn't in there, right? So even if you Imperm Lacrima and then you Ash the Requiem, you still have Lacrima and Requiem Engrave to send trap on your turn. literally Lacrima, you need 3 interruptions. That's why Fiendsmith is crazy. Like, it can do a lot, especially Lacrima. Lacrima's good. Ash on Engraver honestly is very solid. If they start Engraver and you Ash it, you know, you put them on, you better have a track in hand, right? So if you're playing a Fiendsmith control build, typically they might have a light feed normal summon, or maybe they even have a track in hand. But if I was playing, I play a lot of Fiendsmith control, me personally, so like I would never start Engraver if I have tracked or if I have Lacrima in hand. I'm going to start that because I want to go ahead and just get into my Necroquip so I can get more value off of my Engraver. So if these start Engraver, I highly doubt they have anything. If they don't start Engraver, like, you know, like it's weird, but ashing on it is fine. I think it's absolutely fine. I think it's a fine call if they start Engraver, because 9 times out of 10 they shouldn't have anything unless they're just playing next level mind games, you know, or they're just a bad player. And like if they're a bad player, like it could work out to their advantage because, you know, they lead with Engraver even though they have all the cards. Like then it's like, damn, you know. So but Ash on Engraver is pretty good. Ogre, so this is a phenomenal interaction that a lot of people don't realize. Ogre does not target, so even if they have Desiree on board and it's untargetable because of sequence being attached to it, Ogre doesn't target, right? So the moment you use Desiree's effect to negate your board and you chain Ogre to it, it's going to destroy the Desiree. Desiree won't be able to destroy the Desiree, one, because it doesn't target, and then the Desiree effect is not going to negate because it is in the grave and it no longer has equipped monsters on it. So that is a very solid hit to go ahead and hit the Desiree. Next up is Bell. Bell on to Agmunde is a very solid hit. Them trying to use Agmunde effect on your turn and you Bell it, like that's fire. And that's typically when I use the Bell. It's kind of when it comes to their turn if they're using Agmunde on their turn, but if they're using it on your turn, that's very fire. Unless they're going, it's their turn and they're going second, and then you go into Agmunde, and then you go ahead and Bell that, that's fire because then you protect yourself for the turn. Ogre on Engraver, I'm sorry, not Ogre, but Bell on Engraver is very good. Putting them off the extra body, you put them on Better Habit, so that's a solid hit. Imperm Veiler onto Sequence or DDD. That is a very, very strong hit. If they overextend into Sequence, which most Fiendsmith control players shouldn't be, they should be going for the DDD line. But if they do happen to overextend, hitting the Sequence is very good. Just putting them off that. Naturally, you're going to put them on Better Have another body to use your Track and Grave, to go into Lacrima, blah, blah, blah. But hitting the Sequence is a solid hit. Same thing with DDD, being able to Imperm DDD on your turn, or if you have Nib in hand, naturally there's just GG's right there. Impulse onto Sequence. Impulse onto Sequence is absolutely phenomenal. It's a godsend. I would absolutely do that. Impulse on Requiem, same thing. If you start luring the Impulse to Requiem, that's GG's. Impulse on Agmunde, holding an impulse for your turn, hitting the Agmunde. We don't want them to use Agmunde to get to Desiree to have negations. So impulsing on the Agmunde is very, very good. Impulse onto the Engraver, same thing. We get them off the extra body, we lose a body for shuffling into the deck, and then we don't get the Engraver out. So for the Azuna, wait for the right moment, right? So we want to wait for them to have Necroquip and Engraver on the field. Typically this is when they're going to choose whether they're going to go into a Caesar or if they're going to extend further into a Sequence line. Hold it for them. Once they have those two bodies on the field, go ahead and use your Azuna, and you're going to take the Engraver. Why? Because we don't want them to have Light Fiends to do further extensions. So the moment you do that, you go into Azuna, Lupus effect to XYZ, go into Nashonite effect, steal their Engraver, and then you put them on a very weird position to Better Have it, right? Joel is not horrible into this matchup. Like I said before, if they start off with Engraver, you know, you're shutting off their track now. And And if they're playing any other variant where it's mixed, you're turning off what other engine they have. So Joel into this matchup's not bad, but obviously it's very situational. Definitely not main deck worthy, but it could be main deck worthy depending on the rest of the decks in the format. But against Fiendsmith, I don't foresee myself siding this card in unless it is a build that is mixed. Nib, hold it if you have Imperm, right? So hold if paired with Imperm. If not, drop early, right? So if you have Nib in hand, you're always going to Nib the moment you have Necroquip and Engraver on board because they're threatening the DDD. You have to respect DDD, so drop Nib. Now, if you have Imperm, just go ahead and let them do whatever they're going to do, right? So if you don't Nib them, be like, yeah, that's good, and then you decide to overextend, that's even better for you, and then you still have an Imperm in hand. But if they make the DDD and then they go into a second engine and they're making all this shit, hold it until the moment they're threatening maybe possibly another negate that could stop your nib. If they are threatening that, then go ahead and imprint DDD, new chain, nib, all right? And guys, please remember to do it on a new chain. You know, I've had people like chain, they used imperm onto my Necroquip. I changed something else to, or not my, I'm sorry, my Il Silva, right, my Omni Negate, and then I changed something else to it, and then he chained Nib. Bro. Okay, Il Silva effect, yo, wait for the chain to resolve, guys. Yo, wait for the chain to resolve before you use your Nibs. Alright, cool text. Same thing, guys. Snipe Master 9000 made its way into here, because naturally, if you snipe their engraver, you instantly get into your own Fiendsmith lines, right? So not only is it a removal on your opponent and a disruption, but it's also a starter for you. So again, same thing with Yummy. This is another starter. Like, that's crazy, especially if you're playing Yummy Fiendsmith. Not only do you have better chances against pure Yummy, you have chances against Fiendsmith control builds. Like, this card's crazy into that matchup. Black Coat. Fiendsmith can go into a lot of threatening things, so you want to call whatever you feel like is going to be most threatening. And naturally, the set effect of Black Coat doesn't affect summons from the grave, so please keep that in mind. So you want to call either the Caesar or the Desiree or whatever you feel like is going to be the most threatening to you. D-Barrier, this is also a good tool, but you also, same thing, you need to hold it for whatever's most threatening to you. Keep that in mind. Super Poly is very matchup dependent. If they have multiple engines, it could be very good. If it's just Fiendsmith, typically I don't foresee them ending on the same attributes. Like, it would be like a Caesar and a Desiree if they have full combo, right? Or like with Primite Fiendsmith, is like Caesar and like a Baguska. So like it's very matchup dependent, but it can be very good, especially if you are if you went first and you set a super poly, right? Like, you can just super poly them the moment they get 2 light fiends on board, right? And that's just GG's. Like, maybe they do a sequence into Desiree trying to push through your board and you super poly them then. That's pretty solid. Spiral is absolutely hilarious. Being able to put back Caesar or Desiree after the fusion summon is huge, right? So if the sequence effect go into Desiree, and then you just go ahead and spiral, hit the Desiree, and you just leave them on a sequence, like, that's crazy. Or they go into Caesar, and then you just hit the Caesar, and then you go into your turn, and you're fucking Caesar free. That's why this card is just insane, guys. Absolutely insane. And that is it for the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope there's a lot of information. It's a very long video. I'm not going to waste your time any further, but please, guys, like, comment, subscribe. There's a lot of work. It would mean a lot to me if you guys do that. Let's keep growing this channel. Let's keep learning together. If you guys know of other cool techs, if you guys know of other cool choke points, if you guys know of other good hand trap options, go ahead and add it in. Give me your feedback. I'd love to hear it. I spent a lot of time working on this. Like, you know, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a full-time worker. So, you know, putting this together was a lot of work given that. So I really appreciate the support, and please subscribe to the channel. Please give me your feedback, because that means the world to me, hearing your thoughts so I can improve and be better as well. But that is it for this video. I got a lot coming your way. Unfortunately, I will not be able to do the regional next week. I have some family matters to attend to, but I will be attending the regional at the end of the month, and I will be going over pure canine build next week. Next week, most likely won't have a video. Maybe I will do a slide presentation on what to decide for canine Azamina if I have the time, because I know quite a people requested that. So I might be able to do that for you guys. But overall, I definitely will have a pure canine build for you guys next week. And then I will also be doing a pure Azamina Diabell control deck with Poplar and the works coming to you very soon too. So very excited to bring those to you guys. So stay tuned and y'all stay blessed, and I'll catch you on the next one.